It's our time to take back control of our future, and the future is up for grabs. We need to steer it into a direction that represents the people. It's a rare opportunity before us that we're in currently. Insurgent Democratic candidates are winning all over the country by saying the exact same stuff that we've been saying on this show. Hey everyone, welcome back to Inspired Earth. Sorry for the delays in the show, but the show must continue, so here we are. I'm going to talk about some things that have happened and are happening briefly before we go into how to get hope from Delaney concentration camp and the Iran war, and how to navigate our current moment into the future. So we'll just jump straight into it with Delaney. This is from The Guardian. Women held at much denounced ICE detention camp sign on to hunger strike. Nearly 40 women detained at Delaney Hall joined striking men and outlined demands rooted in basic human rights. Dozens of women detained inside the Delaney Hall immigration detention facility in New Jersey announced their participation in a hunger and labor strike, advocates announced Thursday. And this was Friday, June 12th. The women detained in Unit 1 of the contentious privately run facility also released a new list of demands. They are calling on Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE, to release women under 21, women with medical conditions, and mothers. They are also demanding improved conditions inside the facility and for their immigration cases to proceed more quickly. The Delaney Hall detention facility, run by the private prison company Geo Group, has in recent weeks become a flashpoint in the Trump administration's effort to engage in mass deportations, which Geo Group, if a lot of people remember, was celebrating when Trump had became elected because they were saying that they were going to just make so much money off of these deportations. So here we are, and they're trying to make their money off of it. And it's a economic incentive to put people in cages and keep them there. A group of more than 300 men launched a hunger and labor strike last month, leading to demonstrations in support of the strikers and aggressive police responses, which the prison concentration camp said that they would be potentially force-feeding these people to keep them alive so they can keep on doing the labor, because they were being worked for like $1 a day or something like that. The announcement that detained women in Delaney Hall were engaging in a strike that just one day after Trump signed a $70 billion spending bill for immigration enforcement agencies, and as immigrants in other detention centers participate in strikes of their own. So we're having these strikes all across the nation at these camps, which have horrendous conditions. I'll get into those in another episode. This is just like a brief episode going over everything. And ICE is getting all of this money, which they're part of Department of Homeland Security, so they don't have the same laws as the military. They are getting the budget of militaries, though. So he basically kind of has his own army with the DHS, that is Trump and his administration, or anybody who inherits this stuff afterwards. And they have the military budget of some other countries. That is ICE. So on Thursday morning, advocates, religious leaders, and family members with detained loved ones gathered in front of Delaney Hall concentration camp facility to announce nearly 40 women were signing onto the strike. A series of speakers decried the conditions inside. Today, we stand with the women demanding release, safe living conditions, medical care, legal representation, family visitation, safe drinking water, and protection from abuse, said Archange Antone. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry. A minister with the Clergy Coalition for Liberation. These are not radical demands. These are demands rooted in basic human rights. On May 22nd, a group of detained men inside Delaney Hall announced a hunger and labor strike, making a list of demands including meeting the New Jersey state governor, improved conditions, the release of sick and elderly detainees, and for their cases to proceed in immigration court. At the time, a few women inside the facility joined in that effort, advocates told The Guardian. Which, interestingly, this New Jersey state governor is supposed to be a Democrat. And yet she has sent out state troopers to go and beat up the protesters outside. So that's kind of interesting. But she's linked to this other governor, Spamberger, who has the CIA links. I think they're allegedly friends or something like that. So kind of doesn't go too much of a surprise with that. But ICE officers responded to the protests by deploying pepper spray and using tasers and batons. But later, amid national attention on the heated protests, New Jersey governor and Newark's mayor deployed the state and local police forces, who deployed tear gas and arrested dozens in an effort to disperse the protests. After the detained immigrant strike began, advocates and detainees have claimed that ICE and GEO Group have retaliated against them by canceling family visitations, removing communication tablets from units, and transferring detainees to other facilities. Advocates estimate that 90 people were transferred to other detention facilities this week. We know that engaging in a strike is really hard. A volunteer with Cosecha, a immigrant rights organization in New Jersey. Not just because of what it does to the physical body, but also because we have seen that the guards and ICE are retaliating against the strikers. The Delaney Hall facility opened last year after ICE signed a $1 billion contract for 15 years with GEO Group. Since its opening, it has faced repeated accusations of substandard medical care, inedible food, neglectful guards. Multiple oversight visits by members of Congress have found conditions at the facility to match claims by detainees, according to lawmakers' accounts. We all want our family members home, a woman, whose husband has been detained in Delaney for 2 months. She requested anonymity for fear of retaliation. He's not a criminal. He sacrifices himself every day for his family and for his home. Yeah, which remember, a lot of these people were just like scooped up at work. So, and they're supposed to be like hardcore criminals, according to Trump. Amid the strike and protests, 2 18-year-old women detained inside Delaney were released, along with all pregnant women, which advocates celebrated as a win. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, denied that a hunger strike was taking place at all. Another day, another hoax about ICE, the DHS said. There's no hunger strike at Delaney. No detainees are being beaten or abused. All detainees are provided with 3 meals a day, clean water, clothing, bedding, showers, soap, and toiletries. It is a long-standing practice to provide comprehensive medical care for the moment an alien enters ICE custody. Really, that's interesting because I could have sworn I've seen multiple videos of ICE chasing people into freeways or even a train, and they just leave them for dead. So, I mean, there was a guy who you can look up that got hit by a train and left for dead, and somebody saw it and saved his life. But ICE literally chased him until he got hit by a train and then left him there without an arm. So yeah. The comprehensive medical care from the moment an alien enters ICE custody. And can I just also say real quick how disgusting it is to call a human being an alien, and their whole alien.gov joke, if you can even call it that, of like spoofing all of the UFO community into thinking we were about to get disclosure. And then they're like, oh, no, the real aliens are actually your neighbors. It's disgusting. And that they were going to go and abduct them, that they're going to abduct the aliens. I mean, it's really sickening and just terrible, inhuman. I mean, they're literally dehumanizing them. How could somebody say that that's not dehumanizing them? But whatever. We'll just move on. DHS statement also encouraged undocumented immigrants to self-deport. Geo Group did not respond to a request for comment by time of this publication. Also, not I mentioned earlier that they're getting people at workplaces, but the self-deport line really hit me with this because at least here in Central Texas, and I know this is happening all over America, they're grabbing and nabbing people at their courthouse, at their court dates when they're showing up, getting their papers the legal way. They've been doing it for months and they're about to complete the process. And right when they're about to complete the process, they get nabbed. And there was literally a need for people to be courthouse watchers right now. So if you have time, you could go out and just sit in front of the courthouse, and there's groups that you can join with this and be on the lookout for ICE to come and nab people when they're getting their paperwork. Because there's insane videos of people being taken away from their children while showing up to their court immigration stuff. So they're just actively trying to make sure people are not getting their stuff legally, even if they're going through the legal way. So remember that when they say we'll just do it the legal way, these people are doing it the legal way. A lot of them are being taken out of the courts, so much so that the judges are having to protect them, and that the Trump administration was going after the judges. Y'all can go and look up that too, of whenever that was going on. And they even try to charge a judge. I don't remember what happened with that, but because she was like sneaking people out the back or something when ICE was coming in at their detention or at their court hearings to get their stuff. But it's insane. This sort of stuff is going to be in the history books. We're at a very insane moment in history for sure. Geo Group did not respond for requests for comment at the time of the publication. When the first hunger strike began on May 22nd, a group of women detained inside the facility also wrote a letter to the public, denouncing the conditions inside. The letter was published this week by advocacy groups. Most of the women detained at the center were illegally detained by ICE, the letter reads. We're taken at the entrances of our immigrant court, check-ins, at our jobs, taking our kids to school. See, at the entrance of our immigration court check-ins, that's what we have on videotape here in Central Texas hundreds of times over. And they're not nice about it. They come up and grab you. And the taking our kids to school stuff. Like ICE was raiding schools and taking teachers away. And taking kids and taking their parents. Taking parents to where nobody would be there to pick up the kid. So this is just deplorable. That's what this word says, and that's what it is. The treatment we received from this center is deplorable, from screams, racism, and bad medical attention. Other hunger strikes have been taking place at different facilities around the U.S. In California, detained immigrants inside the Adelanto Detention Center and the nearby Desert View Annex are currently engaged in a strike. The DHS is denying that hunger strike is taking place, but advocates claim that the strike detainees have faced retaliation. According to the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, the Northwest Detention Center in Washington State has had 9 separate strikes since 2026. Similarly, immigrants inside other detention centers, including Texas, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, have launched hunger strikes since mid-April. So, as far as Texas ICE stuff, we've been getting some crazy stuff for sure. Like, they have a facility, they're sending all of these detainee children that are getting pregnant from the guards, and they're not allowed to have abortions in Texas, so they're just like shipping them here to cover it up. But I feel like that's going to be one of those things that ends up backfiring, because then you have the child. You can't, if they got the abortion, then you could cover it up, but if they have the child, there's going to be evidence of it, DNA evidence even. So that's going to be interesting later on, the legal things that might happen from the DNA evidence left behind from these crimes. And some of the facilities in Texas are so insane that even different people inside of the facility have called 911 on each other, including staff. I'm trying to find. I'm Googling as I'm talking. I should have had this one ready. Worse than a prison. So there's a bunch of recordings of 911 calls where people were being tortured at ICE facilities, and here we have serious medical and mental health emergencies have been routine at the nation's largest ICE detention facility since its opening. Data and recordings from more than 100 911 calls at Camp East, Montana, and El Paso, along with interview and court filings, offer a disturbing portrait of overcrowding, medical neglect, malnutrition, and emotional distress. Current and former detainees describe a camp where 3,000 people live per day in unsanitary, loud quarters. They say that detainees struggle to obtain health care as disease spreads, lose weight because of lack of food, and fear security guards known to use force to put down disturbances. Every day felt like a week. Every week felt like a month. Every month felt like a year. Owen Ramsing, a former property manager in Columbia, Missouri, who spent several weeks in the camp before his deportation to the Netherlands. Camp East, Montana was 1,000% worse than a prison. The Department of Homeland Security spokesperson, who did not provide their name, rejected claims of subprime conditions, saying Camp East, Montana detainees receive food, water, and medical treatment. Here's some takeaways from Associated Press reporting, which this was on a magazine. I could have sworn it was like Slate or something, but maybe this is from Associated Press, or maybe this is a different one, because this seems like this might be a little bit different than what I was reading. But a lot of this wasn't getting any sort of coverage back in the day. I mean, it's getting a little bit now, but it's insane that this has gotten so little coverage. So here are some takeaways from AP's reporting. Camp averaged one 911 call per day for months. That is insane. One emergency per day, at least, that somebody's calling. And remember that sometimes this is guards calling it on one another, as well as detainees and families. So imagine how bad it has to be for a guard to call 911 on another guard. That's pretty rare. So get ready, people. This is probably going to be disturbing. After its opening in mid-August, staff at the camp made nearly one 911 call per day in its first 5 months, according to data covering 130 calls from the city of El Paso obtained by the Associated Press. In one call, a man is heard sobbing after being assaulted by another detainee. In another, a doctor says a man is banging his head against the wall while expressing suicidal thoughts. In a third, a nurse says a pregnant woman is in severe pain and also has coronavirus. So there's keeping them in there, getting sick. And may I remind you that with the concentration camps with the Nazis, they just rounded a lot of people up, didn't feed them well, and let disease take its course. And by lowering the immune system with the stress and malnutrition. So this is an age-old tactic of elimination. This is basically, in a way, a labor death camp, because they're just crowding everybody in there, making them sick, and whatever happens at that point. So pregnant women or old people, might have a bad time in there, or basically anybody. The injured detainees ranged from 19-year-old man who fell out of a bunk bed to a 79-year-old man struggling to breathe. At least 20 emergencies were reported as seizures, including some resulted in serious head trauma. Calls reveal repeated suicide attempts. Calls show detainees have repeatedly tried to harm themselves, expressing suicidal thoughts. 2 incidents have resulted in death. On January 3rd, ICE security guards responded after a 55-year-old Cuban man trying to harm himself and then used handcuffs to forcibly restrain him. A medical examiner ruled that Geraldo Lunas Campo's death was a homicide caused by asphyxia. So it was ruled a homicide. but do we have anything that in the news about that? On January 14th, staff reported that a 36-year-old Nicaraguan man died by suicide days after he was detained. In addition to those cases, at least 6 other suicide attempts were reported. The DHS spokesperson said the facility staff closely monitors at-risk detainees. ICE has not released inspection results. The Washington report in September that ICE require inspection found conditions violated at least 60 federal standards, but the report has never been released, unlike dozens of other inspections at facilities posted at ICE's website. DHS has called claims of violations described in the Post story false without explaining why the inspection was wrong. ICE current database on detention facilities indicate Camp East Montana has never been inspected, but is scheduled one for this fiscal year, which this was in 2026. Congresswoman calls for camp's disclosure or closure and contract investigation. U.S. Representative Veronica Escobar, El Paso Democrat, has toured the camp several times, calling for its closure. This facility should not be operational. It feels like this contractor is reinventing the wheel, and people are losing their lives in the experiment. So I'm just gonna. This isn't exactly what I was looking for, but the article I was looking for says that the residents around the area could hear the screams echoing through the night, and even the residents were calling 911. But based on the amount of self-harm going on inside of these facilities, I would say that the conditions are probably extremely horrendous, and that they're obviously being tortured inside of these places. So that's why these protests are going on outside of this, and that's why I call it a concentration camp. The protests are going outside. Trump is giving all of this money to ICE. So the ICE is not over. And remember, they're considering using ICE at the polls this November, possibly. They floated the idea, his officials, his people have, or the military. Who knows what's going to happen, but we all got to get out there in November and vote. And so these communities that are organizing against the ICE detention facilities, also a lot of them are able to fight off against AI more effectively. The communities that are more organized in general are more well suited to respond to any sort of crisis. And that's kind of my main takeaway with this, is that the lessons of hope that we can get from Delaney is that we need to organize as a community. And we can take those same lessons and bring them to AI, of how to stop AI, which the billionaires are saying that the anti-AI movement is Chinese. Like Kevin O'Leary is saying, well, the reason people don't want my data center out there is because of China. It's like, no, dude, we're upset because you're taking away our water and destroying the land. So we'll move on to Iran real quick. I'll try to be as quick as I can. Iran basically has destroyed all anti-missile ammunition from Israel and the USA, to the point to where we had to take away missiles from South Korea that they had purchased. We took them back away from Korea. Yemen, a few months ago, we were bombing Yemen, and Trump had claimed victory on them despite us not actually defeating them. So basically Yemen won and survived our bombardment and kept fighting. Now they're helping Iran again, which the USA cannot destroy the Iranian military targets, which is why Trump is openly threatening and doing war crimes. We killed the school filled with little girls in our first salvo with Iran. Some say that was AI. Some say it was on purpose. The Pentagon confirmed that it was us, the United States, that had destroyed the school, which is very sad. Trump saying he will destroy civilization is openly genocidal. I mean, Iran has over 90 million people. That's more people than Hitler killed. If we are going to destroy a whole civilization, allegedly. How is that not openly, like, super psychotic and murderous also? I, I, I don't understand how people aren't. Well, I see people responding to it, but the media, by that I mean the corporate media, which of course they're just trying to keep all this stuff under wraps. But it's insane that the media just doesn't say anything or will just echo what he's saying without actually processing the gravity of what he's saying. Trump saying he will destroy the power plants and bridges, again, openly genocidal and a war crime. Some of the bombs we dropped in the last few days took water from 20,000 people. They had their water restored, but still, it's a war crime. The fact that we hit water reservoirs, the whole conversation of hitting desalination plants is very insane. I mean, we're risking global catastrophe, the likes of which we can't even really imagine once we start going down that. But the USA is losing in Iran, and in a way, that's a good thing, so that we can reassess and realize that we're making huge mistakes. We can keep on invading countries like Cuba and Greenland or Canada or Peru or Ecuador. The USA is bombing Latin America right now, and it's not in the news really either. Now, as far as this alleged ceasefire, it hasn't been signed. It's supposed to be signed on the 19th. However, it may be blocked by the powers that be that don't want a peace deal, such as maybe Israel. Regardless, the world has entered a phase of energy transition where the petrodollar is not nearly as strong as it was, and Trump's invasion of Iran, or war of Iran rather, is done more for decarbonizing the world than any other president has ever done, ironically, which is kind of hilarious in a way. The whole rest of the world is being pushed away from the dollar because the dollar's losing value because of the petrodollar. We'll see what's going on with the inflation rate. Nobody really knows what's happening, and that's kind of where we're at. But the use of fossil fuels, I feel like, has hit a tipping point, and a lot of other experts are all saying the same thing, that a lot of countries are going to be pushed into renewable energy to make sure that this never happens again. And this is the perfect moment to transition. We're in a energy crisis. We're in a climate crisis. I haven't even talked about the climate. I'll talk about it briefly a little bit later. But we're still getting more information from climate data that says it's even worse than we thought. And some people are saying, again, we don't know how bad it is. With the AMOC, the ocean collapse, getting more data from that very recently. A bunch of experts and scientists all coming on to warn about that. And Trump has stopped the ocean monitoring, apparently. So he's trying to stop us from getting data about the ocean collapse, which is just absolutely insane. But nobody knows where this transition will land. Some people speculate that this transition may have to do with AI. It's energy obviously has a lot to do with AI. So it's kind of in the same ecosystem of one another, of energy and AI. So we'll have to keep an eye on how that changes and how it affects one another. So basically, we could be looking at some sort of economic catastrophe, supply line collapse, but we don't really know how bad it will be or how long it will last. how widespread it will be. Basically, nobody knows shit about shit. But we do have the elections coming up. That's what we do know. That is what we do know. And we know that our education is in a terrible place, really nationally, but especially here in Texas. Healthcare, again, is getting worse than ever with the BBB. I'm going to have an episode talking about that. Well, really like a big mini series talking about that, of how it links into everything. Because what happened with the BBB last July it still has to do with all of this. And it's just going to get bigger. And on that note, Medicare, which was part of that, of them trying to take away Medicare from everybody and trying to say that sick people have to work, otherwise they won't get any sort of medical care. It's just very, again, kind of Nazi-esque, and that it's work or die. If you're not fit for society, then you will be eliminated, and that you're a parasite. That's what the Nazis believed, and that's what this administration believes. And that's what the policies show. I'm not just saying that. That's what the policies show. So, kind of having a lot of different revolutions all mixed together. I talked about revolutions early on in the podcast, about biological revolutions, consciousness revolutions, etc. And the revolutions are coalescing into a larger revolution, a socio-political revolution, that the trio of science and society and people's perseverance will determine the future of humanity. And currently, insurgent candidates and local communities are how we can fight back, specifically with DSA, such as Democratic Socialists of America and Insurgent Democrats. We need to take away the power from the corporate Democrats, who I've talked about on this podcast before, how they just represent corporations rather than actual people. And Republicans, honestly, at this point, are just freeing a bunch of sex criminals. I mean, look up Ken Paxton's history, and yeah, just everything you need to know about Republicans, just look up Ken Paxton and that's what they represent. That's our Republican GOP Senate primary choice for Texas, and he has a huge litany of crimes and atrocities and divorces and whatever. So, anyways, it's our time to take back control of our future, and the future is up for grabs. We need to steer it into a direction that represents the people. It's a rare opportunity before us that we're in currently. Insurgent Democratic candidates are winning all over the country by saying the exact same stuff that we've been saying on this show, and by coming into their own conclusions on this stuff. Like, obviously, they're not listening to the show. These are all just the right answers. That's why we're all coming to the same things, that billionaires are bad, the economy's screwed up, the climate's screwed up, and we need to take care of one another. We need medical care. So yeah, we talked about possible AMOC collapse with the ocean collapsing. That is going to cause climate change all around the world. Should the AMOC collapse, everything's going to change. So we would need to organize our communities to respond rapidly to changing climates and increase natural disasters. So that's, again, I'm just saying, we have to organize in our communities. Take it, the No Kings rallies, for example, to get connected, to find groups that are like-minded. Everybody has to get involved at this point. It's no longer something about knowing the right things. We have to know the right things, but we also have to act. We have to have action. Another thing about this podcast that I've advocated for, that is a key solution that still people are not as keen on it as they need to be, is the need for local solutions. So, for example, electricity problems or any sort of local problem, you can come up with local solutions for it. You don't need to necessarily have big government or like a big corporation come and save everything, fix everything or save everything. You can do it as a community. And there are technologies out there that will enhance that and that we can lean into it, such as local solar or whatever, to where you don't have to push electricity as far in the lines, and it's more difficult to disrupt the power of a nation if the power is more locally generated. So again, just working on our communities is the key to the future. They want to, I'll just end on this thought of the fact that they want to go to Mars with SpaceX, all these billionaires and like government people and like space fascists or whatever. But we're here trying to get people to be able to eat and have electricity. That is our goals of the people that are here right now. And I think that shows the two different worlds that currently exist on the planet Earth. Is we have the inspired Earth of the local people versus billionaires that want to exploit everything and then leave. So with that, I just hope I gave you some food for thought. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great time. And I'll definitely make some stuff soon with some technologies and new discoveries, inspiring stuff, and thought-provoking content. So I'll see you soon.
Okay, let it be known, I'm working hard when I ain't on the phone. This ain't a home, this ain't a phone. Grind never stopping, I'm keeping it cold. Unlocking the door with the holy key. You supposed to be this close to me, and hopefully you understand G.O.D. Maybe this cold and I'm talking like no degrees. This ain't a fluke, I seen it way before it ever happened. He gave me the view. I had to put in my time on the TV, it coming in soon. I couldn't leave it all up to a variant or an experience. You gotta get up and do what it do. So complicated, homie, it's you. Always gonna wait until you in the mood. I've been running, came out gunning, stop the fronting on your word. It's what you hear, not what you heard. I'ma hate on every verb. I'ma show you what it's worth. Every day I'm on the earth till they put me in the dirt. I'ma get into it first. Said I'ma get into it first. Until they put me in the dirt. Said I'ma get into it first. Said I'ma get into it. I can't break, that's the thing about me. I won't put these goals on freeze. I can't break, that's the thing about me. I won't put these goals on freeze. You cannot stop me, I mean this spinach and broccoli. Termination like I'm Rocky, lift the heavy, no spot please. Body back a beating and I get away scotch-free. And I'ma take control, unbreakable. I sense the face, the shakes is cold, the grace is more. Plus it's really the motivation, so it's thank you so. Put that's on my neck, hard work on my brain. The easy road taking the left, it's on my chest. No time for regrets, faith in the Jimmy like Steph. Shooting is wet like clay, the party ain't maybe this way. I'm taking all of this left to the bank. I'ma deposit and see what it make. Shoot it, so it's reap. I paid a meter, I came in with Peter like Peter on water. I'm stepping in deeper, they know that I'm coming like follow the leader. I'm taking a chance today. Standing inside of the kitchen, I turn on the heater. I'm here to turn on my brothers and sisters and cousins and mothers until my believers get into it first. Said I'ma get into it first. Until they put me in the dirt. Said I'ma get into it first. Said I'ma get into it. I can't break, that's the thing about me. I won't put these goals on freeze. I can't break, that's the thing about me. I won't put these goals on freeze.